Greetings and bienvenue, midnight crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Has anyone ever encountered shadow men before? I have never posted on X before because I do not believe in the supernatural. However, my beliefs have changed on the subject due to a series of events that I have encountered whilst on my late-night walks over the last few months. I live in New York City and often go for walks in Central Park during 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night. The problem is that I have seen something very peculiar whilst walking near random streetlights on occasion. I notice, without any explanation, a shadowy figure standing underneath or near one of the streetlights. The light does not even penetrate the figure, and then a few seconds later, the figure is gone. I can get quite close to the figure, but it vanishes if you attempt to come too close, 5 to 10 feet. The figure is also lifeless, similar to a mannequin doll, with no movement and its arms perfectly straight next to its sides. The weirdest part, however, is that I always experience technical difficulties with any electronics I have on me at the time of encounter. For example, my phone suddenly stops working due to drained batteries, even if it was almost completely charged at 100% originally, or the phone starts lagging to such an extent that I cannot even operate the password lock properly. I also experience a strange tingling sensation on my back and on the top of my head. It is not an optical illusion caused by weather phenomena, for this has occurred on days where the sky is clear. My eyesight is 20/20 and I do not have any form of psychological disorders like schizophrenia which could explain these sightings. In total, this has happened to me about 5 times over the last few months and I am discombobulated by such events. Has anyone else experienced the same thing? Thanks. Pick is similar to what I have experienced.
Have any of you guys ever dealt with shadows that move on their own? When I was around 10 years old, I remember dicking about in an old barn I wasn't supposed to be in. It was private property. In the middle of my dicking about, I hear kids near the entrance, obviously. Being so friendly, I wanted to go and see if they wanted to hang out, but when I came to the front I didn't see anyone. What I did see were a bunch of shadows, attached to nothing, running in a really unnatural way. Like how a spider looks when it skitters, fast and oddly mechanical. These shadows also looked off. They were more like sharp cardboard cutouts with comical half-pie smiles. They were also darker in color than the natural shadows around them. When I came out they all ran, and my first instinct was to chase after them. At that age, I was hoping they could take me somewhere. Show me something fantastical, if they were real. They must live lives I and nobody else knows of. It was a pursuit for magic. I can't remember being scared of what would happen to me if I caught them. Obviously, I didn't catch them. I ran as much as I could, but they were too fast. I was extremely depressed walking back home, and knowing that I'd be the only one to believe me.
Be me when I was about 9 years old. Both me and my older sister have seen what we named the shadow people. One could not simply look at the shadow people but only see their shadows, thus their name. Usually I would see them through mirrors. Would be walking past a mirror and you would catch a glimpse of them. Always seemed like they were pacing back and forth behind you. House had a long walkway to the front door. Had to walk past the living room window to get to it. Would always know when someone was coming to the front door because of the shadow cast on the living room window. Whenever me and my sister were home alone would see the shadow. But no one ever knocked on the door. Was the shadow people. We were not afraid of them but somehow felt that they had a negative energy. Sister and I decided that they worked on vampire rules. Could not come in if not invited. Every night before bed both of us would say out loud that no spirits were allowed in our room. Could see a shadow in the crack under the door every night. Looked like the shadow of a person pacing in front of our bedroom door. Even at that age I had insomnia. Would sneak into the living room and watch Adult Swim. Was 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Heard loud banging at the door and the handle rattling. Was like someone was trying to break in. Followed a pattern. 3 loud bangs and the handle rattled like crazy. Run to my parents' room and wake them up. They heard nothing. How was this possible? I thought. Their room is super close to the front door. How could they not hear? Later parents have some sort of demon exorcist come to the house. They were super Christian and decided to have someone from the church cleanse the house. Unrelated to my incident, we created the exorcist at the driveway. Begin walking them to the front door. Immediately stops next to the living room window where we see shadow people. Says an evil demon spirit has been here. Says it is angry it can't come in. Says we should be careful to never invite it in. Sister and I are shitting our pants. Exorcist proceeds to pray in every room. They say the house is purified in the name of Christ and shit. Says can't do anything for the demon outside. Only to be careful who or what we invite in. Lived there for another 5 years then moved. Almost every day I saw the shadow people passing in front of the living room window going toward the front door. Sometimes I would hear a knock. Looked through a peephole and no one was there. Whatever it was didn't follow us to the new house. Good riddance. We lived high in mountains where there used to be Indian tribes. Would find arrowheads all the time. Maybe it was an angry spirit pissed. I dunno. I'm just glad I never saw the shadow people again.
Ask any U.S. Marine about the shadow people of 29 Palms. If they've been out there, there's a good chance they've seen them. There's a lot of weird stories and sightings from that desert hellhole, but the shadow men people are the most common I've heard. On fire watch at about 3 a.m. 1st Marine Division got rowdy and drunk a couple nights prior, so now we need to post a fire watch to make sure these idiots don't try to steal shit or fuck with our guys. See a figure dart between 2 of our cans. Yell, who's there? Get no reply. Come out fucker, I saw you. See a silhouette step out from behind the can and just stand there. What the fuck are you doing? Corporal walks out of the can behind me and asks who I'm yelling at. Turn around and say, some dumb ass over there, Corporal. Turn back and see the silhouette gone. Corporal tells me to go check behind the can. Find nothing. He says it's probably a shadow person and tells me to just leave them alone. Says in his culture, Creole, that it's bad luck to interact with them or look at them for too long. Tells me to check off about 15 minutes early and get some sleep.
Yeah, for me it is never a quick instant when they appear. And when they ever do appear, it's always at the corners of my eyes and they stand there for a while. When I face them, they do not disappear, but phase backwards, so I am never close enough to them to touch. I am a completely sane, normal person, but whenever I ask people if they get these same visions, it is always the lol shadow people meme response. I always feel uneasy talking about it because I know what I saw, but no one ever reciprocates the feelings of unease I have. They look lifeless but share the presence of a real person, and since their stay is always prolonged, it feels malevolent. And anything can happen. Luckily it never does. I'm an avid night walker too. But they appear during the day, sometimes just within a crowd or whenever I am alone. I simply do not know what to make of it, and I hope someone can tell me what they want or who they are.
They feed on fear. I post about them every time I see a new thread on here since years ago. First time I saw a shadowy figure was the Hat Man himself, and I was just a kid, with zero outside influence, no internet, movies, anything like that. I was terrified, which seemed to amplify his presence. I even had weird bouts of out-of-body experiences where I would try to leave my room and flee from him, yet his presence alone made me feel like I was moving in quicksand. I saw him multiple times, with one being during my college days where I experimented with binaural beats that a friend had sent me. One of them was called Ultra Death, and suffice to say it messed me up. Everything around me was on fire, and he showed up, shaking me back and forth as I felt my bed sink down. When I took off my headphones, I couldn't speak for 10 minutes and I couldn't stand up properly. I had to be hunched over as I seemed to be in some kind of weird shock. Besides that, I usually saw lesser shadow figures that had less impact or that acted like pranksters during sleep paralysis. The fix that got rid of them? Confidence, having no fear, having a strong mind and good thoughts, etc. It almost seems like they are not actually there to cause harm, but rather analyze certain people or mess with them on purpose to see if they will ever be stronger mentally. I could be wrong, but that's my take on it, as I don't think there is much logic to true evil without wisdom on the other side.
Hey Anons, hope you are doing good. Let's get a good old Greentext or OC scary story thread going. I'll start. Be me, 7 years old. My room was at the end of a long hallway, next to the bathroom. My parents' room was almost at the entrance of the house. Sleeping was kind of hard for me most of the time. Wake up in the middle of the night to pee. Go to the bathroom and do the deed. When I go back to my room and open the door, I see a dim red glow emanating from seemingly nowhere. In the center of a room there is a really tall humanoid figure, looking as if it was made of shadow, and it had white bright glowing eyes. Stare at it for a bit. Suddenly, I woke up. What.jpg? Nope, the fuck out of my room, run past the hallway, and enter my parents' bedroom. I opened the door and was really afraid, so I forgot to close it. Fell asleep with them. Wake up at maybe 5 or 6 a.m. I noticed there was some sunlight. When I opened my eyes, I saw that shadow peeping on the side of the door. Just like in that dream, like it sucked all the light near it and casted it through its eyes. Like watching a blurred picture. Not afraid anymore, feel protected just by being near my parents. Then the thing just went away, like if it dissolved or dispelled. Went back to sleep after that. Since that night, quite constantly I have that dream within a dream happen, and it usually involves minor changes to my surroundings or really scary beings appearing. Recently, I learnt about false awakenings, and it blew my mind. Pic related is the most accurate depiction of what I saw that day, but less skinny and cartoonish.
Not a regular here, but I had a spooky experience that I finally want some insight on. Be me, 8 or 10 years old, live in the middle of the forest in Virginia. Autumn, time of year where it starts getting dark earlier. Playing at neighbor, friend's house, roughly a 10-minute walk away from my place. Spend all day playing, doing whatever bullshit you do for fun as a kid. Twilight comes, about 5:30, getting dark but not dark. Just when the shadows start to come out and get long. You know what I mean. As I leave their house and start to walk down the road into the forest road to my home, my friend comes running out to tell me something. I stop and wait for him. I am like 25 to 35 feet from the tree line, about 9 meters away. He stops me to start telling me about something unrelated. As we're talking, he notices something in the forest and trails off mid-sentence.
Dude, do you see that?
What.jpg? Turn, look into the forest.
Dude, what is that?
I see it, a shadow person. I was completely unaware of the phenomenon of shadow people, but it looked like a human figure in the color of a pitch black shadow. Standing upright. Keep in mind, the lighting is very important. It's 5:30 in autumn. It's dim out, it's twilight, but it is not dark. This thing stands out unmistakably, pitch black contrasting with the dim yet rather well-lit tree line. It looks like it's making a motion with its arms akin to shooting a bow and arrow at us. I'm in a trance, not scared, just fascinated. I ask, it looks like a shadow, but it's moving. My friend says,
Yeah, it looks like he's shooting an arrow.
We both independently observe that it appears to be moving and shooting a bow and arrow. We stare at it together in a trance, not scared, but fascinated and confused. Maybe a minute passes where we continue staring and we notice that there is more than 1, 2, 3, 5, maybe then 7 or 8 of the things are there. They are all making that bow and arrow shooting motion. While fascinated and a bit creeped out, we're not brainlets. We rationalize to ourselves the obvious Occam's razor explanation. We're just imagining it. It's a trick of the light and we are affirming and fueling each other's imagination. Still, that shit is weird, we both say. His fucking dog runs up to us full speed. His fucking dog stands in front of us, protectively, between us and the shadow figures. His fucking dog is now staring right at them, tail fully stiff, twitching, hair upright, barking its head off. My friend and I turn and look each other dead in the eye. Surge of adrenaline hits me like a fucking shot of crystal meth. We instantly turn and sprint to his house, slam the door shut behind us and start screaming, freaking out. What the fuck was that? JPG. The fact that the dog saw and reacted with horror made it terrifying. I called my dad, told him what happened, and begged him to come pick me up in the car. He assumes I'm bullshitting, but I am begging him almost with tears in my eyes to pick me up so I don't have to walk home. He reluctantly agrees. My dad picks me up and drives me home. So I've got a happy ending there, but it gets worse for my friend. My dad had just bought me a new expensive bike. The forecast was calling for heavy rain that night. I'd left the bike out at my friend's house, leaning on a tree near the house, about 10 feet away from the tree line where we saw the shadow people. My dad demands that bike gets put away so it doesn't rust in the rain. I call my friend and ask him to go get my bike and put it inside. Are you fucking serious? JPG.
Yes, sorry bro, but my dad really is mad about that bike.
My friend is still horrified to go out but reluctantly agrees, on the grounds that I stay on a call with him. Okay, he goes outside.
Fuck, there they are. They're closer and bigger. Before they looked like 6 feet. Now it looks like 8 to 9 feet tall. And is much closer to the house.
Yes, I'm a shit friend. Friend goes out, doesn't talk, just hears heavy breathing as he runs to grab my bike and take it inside. I hear nothing but his frantic, labored breathing for 45 seconds as he retrieves my bike. Finally he says,
I got your bike inside, you asshole.
Thanks bro. Call ends. That's pretty much it. Had some other weird shit happen on this property, but that's the big one. For reference, I live on an extremely old property that natives lived on 400 plus years ago. We came to the conclusion that it was some kind of angry spirit. I actually live in this exact house, right now, today, that my friend lived in back then. I've never seen them since, but it still spooks me out to think about. What do you think, Anons? Does the dog seeing it mean it's legit? Are the shadow people real?
Reading the first few lines of this instantly made me remember a childhood memory of mine. Oh my god. I'm a long-time lurker, so this is my first Greentext, so don't judge harshly. Be me. 8 or 9 years old, good wholesome Christian boy. I liked talking about ghosts and watching scary videos at school a little, but nothing beyond that, normal kid. Doing paper deliveries with mum. Dad and brother are helping cuz mum had a lot of magazines to deliver, so we would split up and deliver them across regular suburbia. So I'm walking on my own delivering these papers. There's this one house, kinda gunted looking. It's a lower middle class area, so to be expected, semi-crack house looking. While walking past, the first thing I notice is windows are blocked and there's a huge tree stump in the front yard, like a 1.5 meters wide stump. That's when I saw him. A shadow man, just like Op described, just fully made up of shadow, exactly as Op said. He's holding an axe and chopping up and down on the tree stump. Slow motions up and down with the axe, and slowly looks at me. No eyes, just his head motion. I'm in an utter state of shock, but I'm still in walking motion. A tree husk blocks my vision of the shadow man, which I had my eyes locked on in disbelief. I quickly look on the other side of the tree and he's suddenly gone. I instantly sprint to my mum and dad and almost scream to them what happened. I could tell they believed me but didn't want to take me seriously for the sake of things, so they humbly laughed it off. This was my only experience with anything ghostly, but I remember it still and clearly. Funnily enough, Dad and I drove past the area recently and he jokingly said, "Hey, this is the place you saw that ghost, ha ha." I replied, "Yee ha ha, that was real though, end." Anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed reading. Believe my story, it is real, and reading Op's post was such an eerily reminder. I wasn't imagining this was completely out of the blue and I was feeling normal, fine before the encounter.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember that all videos have been archived on the Odyssey page.